This is a full game asset workflow with all of the fundamentals covered.
In this course, everything you need to know is in one place, from start to finish. What will you learn?
We'll start off with the fundamentals of simple modeling and add more best practices and more essential tools and techniques as we progress. Ultimately, at this stage, we'll be creating a watertight mesh to make it easy to remesh later and begin the sculpting fun.
After preparing the blockout mesh for sculpting, we'll be using the standard sculpt brushes to handcraft the appealing scars of time, weathering and erosion and so on. We'll be creating custom vector displacement brushes to add an extra dimension to our sculpting, as well as how to bake out your own more traditional displacement brushes for that extra fine surface variation. In this section, we'll explore a way of creating intricate 3D designs in Blender that isn't sculpting. In other words, if you've ever thought that creating detailed ancient bas-reliefs was beyond your abilities, this image-based technique is something anyone can give a go.
We'll also briefly touch on some potentially controversial AI-driven methods, such as using stable diffusion for tasks like depth detection, and as a bonus for generating images.
An ancient wall needs an ancient material, so then it's time to set up some physically based materials. That is to say, materials that should work in any lighting setup. We'll be using multiple albedo, roughness and normal maps and blending them together in multiple ways using occlusion, edge highlighting, procedural noise and so on. Again, similar to as we did with the sculpting, but this time using textures, we can take advantage of aspects of our model to help enhance and tell the age and history of our ancient wall asset.
So we've finished sculpting and finished designing our asset. At this point, we're using millions of polygons, but that high resolution isn't going to cut it in most games. So that's where the optimizing for game engines process will help us, a major part of which is retopology. We cover a few different ways to achieve the low polygonal version of the mesh in the course, but we'll start off with one of the most convenient decimating methods. We'll go through the two main ways to work with UVs in Blender, using seams to mark our UV island borders, or using more automatic unwrapping methods of UVs that don't strictly need seams. Then we're on to the final piece of the puzzle, texture baking. There can be a lot of common baking problems that come up time and time again during a typical baking process, and we'll lay out what these all are, why they happen, and how to fix them.
The whole process of creating the asset is shown step by step. In addition to creating the main game assets, woven into the project are videos on the fundamentals of each topic, giving a solid foundation and understanding on many of the choices as we go through modeling, normals, constructing our UVs and so on. After you've watched the course, we believe you have all you need to know to model, sculpt and texture your own designs with confidence.
It's a complete Blender guide for game asset creation, available now on Blender Market, aka Superhive, and Gumroad.